You know, right now, in this very moment, there's something weighing on your heart. There's something that's been keeping you up at night. There's a situation in your life that feels unbearable, and you've been carrying it around like a heavy stone, trying to figure it out, trying to control it, trying to make it turn out the way you think it should. And I want to tell you something that might just change everything for you today. It's time to put that burden down. It's time to leave it in God's hands. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but I've tried everything. I've prayed, I've hoped, I've worked so hard, and nothing's changed. And that's exactly the point. You've been trying to do it all yourself. You've been holding on so tight to your problems, to your pain, to your circumstances, that you've forgotten something fundamental about how this universe works. You've forgotten that there's a power greater than you, a wisdom far beyond your limited perspective, and an intelligence that orchestrates everything in perfect timing. When you're in pain, when you're hurting, when you're going through something that feels like it's tearing you apart, it's the most natural thing in the world to try to fix it yourself. We're conditioned to believe that we have to control everything, that we have to have all the answers, that if we just work hard enough, or think hard enough, or worry hard enough, we can somehow force life to bend to our will. But let me tell you something that's going to set you free. You were never meant to carry these burdens alone. You were never designed to figure everything out by yourself. And the moment you truly understand this, the moment you really let it sink into your consciousness, everything shifts. God sees your pain. Every tear you've cried in the darkness, every moment you felt alone, every time your heart has broken into what feels like a million pieces, none of it has gone unnoticed. None of it has been ignored. The divine presence that created you, that breathed life into you, that knows every single hair on your head, sees everything you're going through. And not only does God see your pain, but God hears your cry. Every prayer, every desperate plea, every whispered help me in the middle of the night when you couldn't sleep, every single one has been heard. But here's where most people get stuck. They think that because they've prayed and things haven't changed yet, that God isn't listening. They think that because they're still in pain, still in the struggle, still in the darkness, that somehow they've been abandoned. And this couldn't be further from the truth. You see, God's timing is not your timing. God's ways are not your ways. And what you're perceiving as silence is actually the universe rearranging itself on your behalf. Think about it this way. When you plant a seed in the ground, you don't dig it up every single day to check if it's growing. You don't stand over it and worry and stress and try to force it to sprout faster. You plant it, you water it, you give it sunlight, and then you trust. You trust the process. You trust that beneath the surface, in the darkness of the soil, something miraculous is happening. The seed is breaking open, roots are forming, life is preparing to burst forth. But all of this happens in a time frame that the seed knows, not in the time frame you demand. Your life works the same way. The challenges you're facing right now, the pain you're experiencing, the situations that seem impossible, they're all seeds that have been planted. And yes, it's dark right now. Yes, it feels like nothing is happening. Yes, it seems like your prayers are falling on deaf ears. But I promise you, beneath the surface of what you can see, God is working. The universe is conspiring on your behalf. Things are shifting and changing and moving in ways that you cannot perceive with your limited human perspective. The problem is, we want instant results. We want our pain to disappear overnight. We want our problems solved immediately. We want what we want, and we want it now. And when it doesn't happen according to our schedule, we lose faith. We start to doubt. We begin to think that we're doing something wrong, or that we're not worthy, or that God has forgotten about us. But this is where we need to shift our understanding completely. Leaving it in God's hands doesn't mean sitting back and doing nothing. It doesn't mean being passive or giving up or resigning yourself to misery. What it means is doing what you can do, taking the actions that are yours to take, and then releasing your attachment to the outcome. It means understanding that you're not the one in control of how things unfold. You're not the director of this movie. You're not the author who gets to write every single plot twist. You're a participant in a much larger story, and there's a wisdom guiding that story that's far greater than anything you could comprehend. When you truly leave something in God's hands, you're acknowledging that you don't have all the answers. You're admitting that your perspective is limited. You're recognizing that what you think you want might not actually be what's best for you. And this takes tremendous courage. It takes tremendous faith, because it means letting go of control. And for most of us, that's the scariest thing in the world. But here's what happens when you really do this. When you really surrender your burdens, when you really trust that God has got this, when you really believe that the universe is working for you and not against you, a weight lifts. The anxiety that's been crushing your chest starts to ease. The fear that's been keeping you paralyzed begins to fade. And in its place comes a peace that surpasses all understanding. Not because your circumstances have changed yet, but because your relationship to those circumstances has transformed. You stop waking up every morning with that immediate rush of dread. You stop going to bed every night with your mind racing through all the worst-case scenarios. You stop carrying that tension in your shoulders, that knot in your stomach, that heaviness in your heart, because you finally understood that this isn't all on you. You finally realized that you don't have to have all the figured out. You finally accepted that it's okay to not be in control. And here's the beautiful paradox. The moment you stop trying to control everything, the moment you surrender to the flow of life, the moment you trust in something greater than yourself, that's when things actually start to shift. That's when solutions appear that you never could have thought of. That's when doors open that you didn't even know existed. That's when people show up in your life who bring exactly what you need. That's when circumstances align in ways that seem almost miraculous. But you have to understand something important. God's plan for you might not look like your plan for you. The way your life unfolds might not match the picture you had in your mind. And this is actually a blessing, even though it doesn't feel like it at the time. Because your limited perspective can only see what you think you want based on your past experiences, your conditioning, your fears, and your ego's desires. But God sees the bigger picture. God knows what you actually need to grow, to evolve, to become the person you're meant to be. Sometimes what looks like a rejection is actually protection. Sometimes what feels like a delay is actually divine timing. Sometimes what seems like a door closing is actually the universe redirecting you to something better. But you can't see this when you're in the middle of the pain. You can't understand it when you're in the thick of the struggle. You can only see it when you look back, when you're on the other side, when you realize that everything happened exactly as it needed to happen. I know you're hurting right now. I know you're tired. I know you've been strong for so long and you just want this to be over. I know you've been praying and hoping and doing everything you know how to do, and you're exhausted. And I want you to know that it's okay to be tired. It's okay to feel weak. It's okay to admit that you can't do this alone. Because that admission, that vulnerability, that honest acknowledgement of your limitations, that's not weakness. That's actually the beginning of true strength. True strength isn't about never breaking. It's not about always being in control. It's not about having all the answers or never showing your pain. True strength is about knowing when to hold on and when to let go. It's about doing your part and then trusting God to do the rest. It's about being willing to walk through the darkness with faith, even when you can't see where you're going. And faith, real faith, isn't about being certain of the outcome. It's not about knowing exactly how things are going to turn out. Real faith is about trusting the process even when you can't see the result. It's about believing that you're being guided even when the path is unclear. It's about knowing that you're being held even when you feel like you're falling. You see, God hears your cry not just as sound, but as the deepest longing of your soul. And the response isn't always what you expect. Sometimes the answer to your prayer isn't getting what you asked for. Sometimes the answer is getting what you need. Sometimes the answer is developing the strength to handle whatever comes. Sometimes the answer is learning to find peace regardless of your circumstances. Sometimes the answer is becoming a different person, someone who no longer needs the situation to change in order to be okay. This is the transformation that happens when you truly leave it in God's hands. You stop being controlled by your circumstances. You stop letting external conditions determine your internal state. You start to understand that peace isn't something you find when everything works out the way you want. Peace is something you cultivate from within, regardless of what's happening around you. And I want to be clear about something. Leaving it in God's hands doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you become cold or detached or indifferent. It means you care deeply, you give it your all, you do everything that's genuinely yours to do, and then you release the outcome. You trust that whatever happens, even if it's not what you wanted, even if it's not what you expected, it's what's needed for your highest good and your greatest growth. Think about the times in your life when things didn't work out the way you planned. Think about the times when you were devastated because something you wanted so badly didn't happen. or something you loved so much was taken away. Now look at where you are today. Can you see how those moments, as painful as they were, led you to something better? Can you see how those closed doors eventually led you to open windows? Can you see how what felt like the worst thing that could happen actually became a turning point? This is the pattern of how life works when you're aligned with the divine flow. This is what happens when you trust in something greater than yourself. This is the evidence that God is always working on your behalf, even when it doesn't feel like it, even when you can't see it, even when you want to give up. Your pain is not permanent. Your struggle is not your identity. Your current circumstances are not your final destination. They're just a chapter in your story, and the author of your story is writing something far more beautiful than you could write for yourself. But you have to let the story unfold. You have to stop trying to skip ahead to the end. You have to stop trying to rewrite every scene that doesn't match your expectations. When you're going through difficult times, it's easy to forget who you really are. It's easy to get so consumed by the problem that you lose sight of your own divine nature. But you are not your problems. You are not your pain. You are not your circumstances. You are a spiritual being having a human experience, and that spiritual essence within you is connected to the same power that created galaxies and orchestrates the perfect harmony of nature. That means you have access to infinite wisdom. You have access to unlimited strength. You have access to a peace that exists beyond all understanding. But you can only access these things when you get out of your own way. You can only tap into this power when you stop trying to do everything yourself. You can only experience this peace when you surrender your need to control. And surrender is not defeat. Let me say that again because this is so important. Surrender is not giving up. Surrender is not admitting failure. Surrender is acknowledging that there's a greater intelligence at work and you're choosing to align with it rather than fight against it. Surrender is the ultimate act of faith. It's saying, I trust that I'm being taken care of even when I can't see how. I trust that everything is working out for my highest good, even when it doesn't look like it. I trust that God has got this, even when I feel lost. This trust, this faith, this willingness to surrender, it changes everything. It changes your energy. It changes how you show up in the world. It changes what you attract into your life. Because when you're not desperately clinging and grasping and forcing and controlling, you create space for miracles to happen. You create an opening for grace to flow in. You become a vessel through which the divine can work. And God is always trying to work through you. God is always trying to guide you. God is always trying to show you the way. But if you're too busy running around in fear and panic and anxiety, if you're too caught up in your own limited thinking and your own desperate attempts to fix everything, you can't hear the guidance. You can't see the signs. You can't feel the nudges that are trying to point you in the right direction. Leaving it in God's hands creates the stillness necessary to receive divine guidance. It creates the calm necessary to hear the whispers of intuition. It creates the clarity necessary to see the path that's being illuminated for you. And when you start to see these things, when you start to notice the synchronicities and the small miracles and the perfect timing of events, your faith deepens. Your trust strengthens. Your peace expands. You start to realize that you're never alone. You start to understand that you're always supported. You start to recognize that even in your darkest moments, even when you felt abandoned, even when you thought no one could possibly understand what you were going through, God was there. God was holding you. God was carrying you through. And those prayers you thought weren't being answered, they were being answered all along, just not in the way you expected. Not in the timing you demanded, not in the form you thought you needed, but in the way that was actually best for you, in the timing that was actually perfect for your growth, in the form that was actually aligned with your highest good. Every single thing you've been through has been preparing you for something. Every challenge has been teaching you something. Every hardship has been strengthening you in some way. And I know it's hard to see this when you're in the middle of the storm. I know it's difficult to believe this when you're drowning in pain, but it's true nonetheless. Your struggles are not punishments. Your difficulties are not evidence that you've done something wrong or that you're not worthy or that God has turned away from you. They're invitations to grow. They're opportunities to develop faith. They're chances to discover strength you didn't know you had. They're doorways to a deeper understanding of yourself and your connection to the recite. Divine. And when you can shift your perspective to see your challenges this way, when you can reframe your pain as a catalyst for transformation, when you can view your struggles as sacred assignments rather than cruel punishments, everything changes. The same circumstances that were making you bitter start making you better. The same situations that were filling you with resentment start filling you with resilience. The same experiences that were breaking you down start building you up. This is the alchemy that happens when you truly leave it in God's hands. This is the magic that occurs when you surrender your burdens and trust the process. You don't become someone who never has problems. You become someone who handles problems differently. You don't become someone who never feels pain. You become someone who moves through pain with more grace. You don't become someone who never struggles. You become someone who struggles with faith instead of fear. And faith isn't the absence of doubt. Faith isn't pretending everything is fine when it's not. Faith isn't forcing yourself to smile when you want to cry. Real faith is being honest about where you are while still trusting where you're going. Real faith is acknowledging the difficulty while still believing in the possibility. Real faith is feeling the pain while still holding on to hope. Hope is not naive optimism. Hope is not denying reality. Hope is a spiritual practice. It's a choice you make every single day to believe that things can get better, even when you have no evidence. It's a decision to keep going, even when you're exhausted. It's a commitment to trust, even when you're scared. And every time you choose hope over despair, every time you choose faith over fear, every time you choose to trust God instead of trying to control everything yourself, you're building your spiritual strength. You're deepening your connection to the divine. You're becoming more aligned with your true nature. And this alignment is what ultimately brings the peace you're seeking. Because peace was never meant to come from having a perfect life. Peace was never meant to come from having all your problems solved. Peace was never meant to come from getting everything you want exactly when you want it. Peace comes from knowing that no matter what happens, you're going to be okay. Peace comes from trusting that you're being guided. Peace comes from believing that God has got you, and God does have you. Right now, in this moment, regardless of what you're going through, regardless of how bad things look, regardless of how much pain you're in, God has you. You are held, you are loved, you are supported. You are not alone. You have never been alone. You will never be alone. The divine presence that breathed life into you at the beginning is with you now and will be with you always. This presence knows your name. This presence feels your pain. This presence hears your cry. And this presence is working on your behalf in ways you cannot see, in dimensions you cannot perceive, through means you cannot understand. Your job is not to figure it all out. Your job is not to make it all happen. Your job is not to force and push and control. Your job is to show up. Your job is to do the next right thing. Your job is to take one step at a time. And then your job is to trust, to have faith, to leave it in God's hands. When you do this, when you really do this, you'll start to notice things. You'll start to see how you're being guided. You'll start to recognize how doors are opening at exactly the right time. You'll start to realize how people are showing up with exactly what you need. You'll start to understand how everything is connected, how everything is orchestrated, how nothing is random. You'll look back at the times you thought you were lost, and you'll see that you were actually being redirected. You'll look back at the times you thought you were broken, and you'll see that you were actually being rebuilt into something stronger. You'll look back at the times you thought God wasn't listening, and you'll see that you were being heard all along. This is the perspective that comes with time and faith. This is the wisdom that comes from trusting the process. This is the peace that comes from leaving it in God's hands. And it's available to you right now, not someday when everything works out, not eventually when all your problems are solved. Right now, exactly as you are, exactly where you are. You don't have to wait until you're perfect to trust God. You don't have to wait until you have it all figured out to have faith. You don't have to wait until your life looks a certain way to surrender your burdens. You can do it now. You can do it right in the middle of your mess. You can do it while you're still hurting, while you're still struggling, while you're still scared. In fact, that's the best time to do it. When you're at the end of your rope, when you've tried everything else, when you have nowhere else to turn, that's when surrender becomes real. That's when faith becomes genuine. That's when trust becomes transformative. So if you're there right now, if you're at that place where you can't carry this anymore, if you're at that point where you need help, if you're at that moment where you're ready to let go, I want you to know that this is not a sign of weakness. This is a sign of wisdom. This is not giving up. This is waking up. This is not failure. This is faith. Take whatever burden you've been carrying and mentally place it in God's hands. See yourself physically taking this weight off your shoulders and giving it over to a power greater than yourself. Feel the relief that comes with releasing control. Feel the peace that flows in when you stop resisting. Feel the love that surrounds you when you remember you're not alone. And then, after you've surrendered it, after you've released it, after you've left it in God's hands, let it stay there. Don't pick it back up 5 minutes later. Don't take it back because you're nervous about how things will turn out. Don't grab onto it again because you think you know better. Let it go. Really let it go. Trust that it's being handled. Trust that it's being worked out. Trust that God's got this. This doesn't mean you'll never think about it again. It doesn't mean you'll never feel concerned. It doesn't mean you become completely detached. It means that when the worry comes back, when the fear creeps in, when the anxiety starts to rise, you notice it, you acknowledge it, and then you consciously choose to release it again. You say, no, I already gave this to God. I'm trusting the process. I'm having faith. And you do this as many times as necessary. This is the practice. This is the spiritual work. This is how you build your faith muscles and strengthen your trust and deepen your connection to the divine. Every time you catch yourself trying to take back control and you consciously choose to surrender again, you're growing. You're evolving. You're becoming more aligned with your true spiritual nature. This is not always easy. Some days it will feel natural and peaceful. Other days it will feel impossible and you'll struggle. And that's okay. That's part of being human. What matters is that you keep coming back to it. You keep choosing faith. You keep trusting. You keep leaving it in God's hands. And over time, something beautiful happens. The peace that felt temporary starts to feel more permanent. The trust that felt shaky starts to feel more solid. The faith that felt weak starts to feel stronger. And you realize that you're changing. Not because your circumstances have necessarily changed, but because you have changed. Your relationship with life has changed. Your understanding of how the universe works has changed. Your connection to God has changed. You're no longer someone who falls apart at every obstacle. You're no longer someone who's controlled by fear. You're no longer someone who thinks they have to do everything alone. You've become someone who knows how to surrender. You've become someone who understands the power of faith. You've become someone who trusts that they're always being guided and supported by something greater than themselves. This transformation is what's waiting for you on the other side of surrender. This peace is what's available when you truly leave it in God's hands. This strength is what you discover when you stop trying to be strong all by yourself and instead allow yourself to be strengthened by divine power. So let go, release your grip, open your hands, stop fighting so hard, stop trying to control what you cannot control. Stop carrying burdens you were never meant to carry alone. Put them down, hand them over. Leave them in God's hands. Trust that you are seen, trust that you are heard, trust that you are loved, trust that you are guided, trust that everything is working out for your highest good, even if you can't see how yet. Trust that your prayers are being answered, even if not in the way you expected. Trust that your pain has purpose, even if you don't understand it yet. And most of all, trust that you are not alone. You have never been alone. In your darkest moments, in your deepest pain, in your greatest struggles, God has been there. God has seen every tear. God has heard every cry. God has felt every heartbreak. And God is working on your behalf right now, in this very moment, arranging circumstances, aligning opportunities, preparing blessings that you cannot yet imagine. Your job is simply to trust, to have faith, to keep going, to take one step at a time, and to leave the rest in God's hands. Do this, and you will find peace. Do this, and you will find strength. Do this, and you will find that you're capable of handling whatever life brings your way. Not because you're doing it alone, but because you finally understood that you never had to. You were always meant to walk this path hand in hand with the divine, supported by infinite love, guided by infinite wisdom, held by infinite grace. Leave it in God's hands and watch what happens. Watch how things shift. Watch how doors open. Watch how solutions appear. Watch how your burden lifts. Watch how your peace deepens. Watch how your faith grows. Watch how your life transforms. Not always in the ways you expect, but always in the ways you need. Always at the perfect time. Always for your highest good. Always with love. Always with purpose. Always with grace. This is the promise. This is the truth. This is the way. Leave it in God's hands and trust that you are being taken care of, because you are. Right now. Always. Forever. Something magnificent is happening right now in your life, and you may not even be aware of it yet. There's a force, an energy, a power that's working on your behalf at this very moment. It's been working all along, actually, but perhaps you haven't been tuned in to receive it. Perhaps you've been so caught up in the struggles, the worries, the daily grind, that you haven't noticed the subtle shifts taking place in your reality. But I'm here to tell you that a big miracle is coming your way, and the only thing standing between you and that miracle is your willingness to be ready for it. You see, miracles aren't these random events that happen to lucky people. They're not reserved for the chosen few or the especially deserving. Miracles are the natural outcome of aligning yourself with the creative force of the universe. They happen when you shift your consciousness from fear to love, from scarcity to abundance, from doubt to faith. And right now, at this very moment, you have the opportunity to make that shift. Let me share something with you that changed my entire perspective on life. For so many years, I believed that I had to make things happen through sheer force of will. I thought success meant pushing harder, working longer, struggling more intensely. I was convinced that life was difficult and that I had to fight for every little thing I wanted. And you know what? Life reflected that belief right back to me. It was difficult. It was a struggle. Every achievement came with tremendous effort and stress. But then something shifted. I began to understand that there's a different way to live. There's a way of being that doesn't require all that struggle and force. It's a way of allowing, of receiving, of opening yourself up to the infinite possibilities that already exist in the universe. You don't have to create miracles. You simply have to allow them to flow into your life. Think about it this way. Right now, there are radio waves all around you. Music, voices, information, all traveling through the air at different frequencies. But you can't hear any of it unless you have a radio, and that radio has to be tuned to the right frequency. The music exists whether you hear it or not. The miracle that's coming your way already exists in the field of infinite possibilities. Your job isn't to create it. Your job is to tune yourself to the frequency where you can receive it. So how do you do that? How do you tune yourself to receive miracles? It starts with understanding who you really are. You are not just a physical body moving through space and time. You are not just your job title, your bank account, your relationships, or your past experiences. At your core, you are a spiritual being having a human experience. You are a piece of the divine creative force that brought the entire universe into existence. You have within you the same power that creates galaxies, that makes flowers bloom, that causes your heart to beat without you having to think about it. But somewhere along the way, most of us forget this truth. We start to identify with our limitations instead of our limitless nature. We look at our circumstances and we say, this is who I am, this is all I can be, this is all I can have. We let our past define our future. We let other people's opinions determine our worth. We let fear and doubt block the flow of miracles into our lives. The miracle that's coming your way requires you to let go of these limited ideas about yourself. It requires you to expand your sense of what's possible. It requires you to stop living from your ego and start living from your higher self. Your ego is the part of you that feels separate, that believes in lack and limitation, that's always worried about survival and competition. Your higher self is the part of you that knows you're connected to everything, that there's more than enough for everyone, that you're safe and loved and supported by the universe at all times. When you live from your ego, you block miracles. You're in a state of resistance. You're pushing against life instead of flowing with it. You're trying to control outcomes instead of trusting the process. You're focused on what you don't have instead of appreciating what you do have. And all of this creates a vibrational frequency that actually pushes miracles away from you. But when you live from your higher self, you open the floodgates. You become a magnet for miracles. You align yourself with the natural flow of abundance that wants to move through you and to you. You stop being a blocked pipe and you become an open channel for all the good that the universe has to offer. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. You're thinking, that sounds wonderful, but you don't know my situation. You don't know how difficult my life has been. You don't know the problems I'm facing. And you're right, I don't know your specific circumstances. But I do know this. Whatever you're facing right now, no matter how challenging it seems, is not bigger than the power that lives within you. The same intelligence that orchestrates the movement of planets and the changing of seasons is available to you right now to transform your life. The question is, are you willing to receive it? Are you willing to let go of your attachment to your problems? Because sometimes we get so identified with our struggles that we can't let them go. They become our identity. We become the person who has this disease, the person who can't find a good relationship, the person who never has enough money, the person who was hurt in the past. And as long as we hold on to these identities, we can't receive the miracle that would transform them. Receiving a miracle requires a certain kind of faith. Not faith in the religious sense necessarily, although that can be part of it. I'm talking about faith as a way of being. Faith as a decision to trust life instead of fear it. Faith as a willingness to believe in possibilities that your logical mind can't yet comprehend. Faith as an openness to receive good even when your current circumstances don't seem to reflect it. You see, most people have it backwards when it comes to faith. They say, I'll believe it when I see it. But that's not how miracles work. With miracles, you have to believe it before you see it. You have to hold the vision of what you want to experience, even when your current reality shows you something completely different. You have to feel the feelings of having received your miracle before it shows up in physical form. This isn't about denying reality or pretending problems don't exist. It's about understanding that your current reality is simply the result of your past thinking and believing. If you want a different reality, you have to think and believe differently right now. You have to become the person who has already received the miracle. You have to align your thoughts, your feelings, your words, and your actions with the reality you want to experience. Let me tell you something about the universe. It doesn't respond to your words. It doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to your vibration. It responds to the energy you're putting out. And your energy is determined by your thoughts and feelings. If you're constantly thinking thoughts of lack, limitation, fear, and doubt, you're sending out a signal that attracts more experiences that match those thoughts. But if you shift your thinking to thoughts of abundance, possibility, love, and trust, you send out a different signal. And the universe must respond with experiences that match that higher frequency. This is why gratitude is so powerful. When you're in a state of genuine gratitude, you're automatically aligning yourself with abundance. You're acknowledging the good that's already in your life, and that acknowledgement attracts more good to you. It's a universal law. Like attracts like. What you focus on expands. What you appreciate appreciates. So if you want to receive the miracle that's coming your way, start by being grateful for what you have right now. Even if it doesn't seem like much, even if you're facing challenges, there's always something to be grateful for. Your breath, your life, your ability to read or hear these words. The fact that you woke up this morning with another chance to experience this beautiful gift called life. And as you practice gratitude, you'll start to notice something amazing. You'll start to see that you're already surrounded by miracles. The fact that your body heals itself when you get a cut, that's a miracle. The fact that there are billions of stars in the sky and you can look up and see them, that's a miracle. The fact that you can think a thought and that thought can change your entire emotional state, that's a miracle. The fact that you can love and be loved, that's a miracle. We're so used to these everyday miracles that we don't even recognize them anymore. We take them for granted. We're always looking for some big dramatic event that we can call a miracle. And in the meantime, we miss the constant flow of miracles happening all around us and through us every single day. But the miracle that's coming your way, the one that you're preparing to receive right now, this is going to be one that you recognize. This is going to be one that shifts something significant in your life. It might be a healing. It might be a relationship. It might be an opportunity. It might be a solution to a problem that's been plaguing you. It might be a complete transformation of your circumstances. I don't know what form your miracle will take, but I know it's on its way. And I know that your willingness to receive it is what will allow it to manifest in your life. Now, receiving a miracle also requires you to let go of resistance. Resistance is anything that blocks the natural flow of good into your life. And one of the biggest forms of resistance is judgment. When you judge yourself, when you judge others, when you judge your circumstances, you create a barrier between you and the miracle you're meant to receive. Think about judgment for a moment. When you judge something as bad or wrong, you're essentially saying, this shouldn't be happening. I know better than the universe how things should be. But what if everything that's happening is happening for a reason? What if even the challenges you're facing are part of the process that's bringing your miracle to you? What if the difficulties you're experiencing are actually preparing you to receive something even greater than you could have imagined? I've seen this pattern over and over again in my own life and in the lives of countless others. The biggest breakthroughs often come right after the biggest challenges. The darkest hour really is just before the dawn. But if you're judging the darkness, if you're resisting it and fighting against it, you slow down the dawn. You delay your breakthrough. You block your miracle. So practice non-judgment. Practice acceptance. This doesn't mean you have to like everything that's happening. It doesn't mean you shouldn't take action to change things. It simply means you stop resisting what is. You acknowledge your current reality without making it wrong. You accept it as part of your path. And from that place of acceptance, you're free to create something new. Another form of resistance that blocks miracles is attachment to how things should happen. We have this tendency to decide exactly how our miracle should show up. We think we know the best way, the right way, the only way for things to work out. And then when life doesn't follow our script, we get disappointed or frustrated or we give up altogether. But the universe is far more creative than we are. The intelligence that runs this entire cosmos has access to possibilities and solutions that our limited human minds can't even conceive of. When you insist that your miracle has to come in a specific form or through a specific channel, you're limiting what the universe can deliver to you. You're like someone standing at the ocean with a teaspoon saying, I'm ready to receive, but only this much and only in this way. So yes, have your desires, have your vision, know what you want, but then surrender the how and the when to a power greater than yourself. Say to the universe, this or something better, in your way and in your timing. And then trust. Trust that what's meant for you will find you. Trust that the miracle that's coming is even better than the one you were imagining. Trust that the universe has your back. This kind of trust isn't always easy, especially if you've been hurt or disappointed in the past. Maybe you've trusted before and it didn't work out the way you hoped. Maybe you've believed in miracles before and felt let down. If that's your story, I want you to know something important. Those experiences weren't failures. They were redirections. They were the universe saying, not that, something better, not now, but soon. Not that way, but this way. Every seeming setback, every closed door, every disappointment is actually part of a larger pattern that's working in your favor. You can't see the full picture while you're living it. You can only see it in retrospect. But from a higher perspective, everything that's ever happened to you has been preparing you for this moment. Everything you've been through has made you stronger, wiser, more capable of receiving and handling the miracle that's coming. And here's something else that's crucial to understand. You don't have to be perfect to receive a miracle. You don't have to have your life completely together. You don't have to be completely healed from all your past wounds. You don't have to be completely free of doubt or fear. You just have to be willing. You just have to be open. You just have to say yes to the possibility that something wonderful can happen for you. Too many people disqualify themselves from miracles. They think they're not worthy. They think they're not ready. They think they haven't done enough spiritual work or personal development. They think they need to be better before they can receive better. But that's just the ego talking. That's just fear, trying to keep you small and safe and stuck where you are. The truth is, you're worthy right now. You're ready right now. You're enough right now. Not because of what you've done or achieved or overcome, but simply because you exist. You're a creation of the divine, and the divine doesn't make mistakes. You were born worthy. You were born deserving of every good thing. You were born to receive miracles. It's your birthright. It's your natural state. What's unnatural is the struggle and the suffering and the lack. Those things aren't your destiny. They're just temporary experiences created by false beliefs and limited thinking. And the beautiful thing is, you can. change your thinking right now. You can choose different thoughts. You can tell yourself a different story. You can shift your perspective, and in doing so, shift your entire reality. So start telling yourself the truth. The truth is that you're loved beyond measure. The truth is that you're supported by the entire universe. The truth is that infinite intelligence is working on your behalf at this very moment. The truth is that a miracle is already on its way to you. The truth is that everything is working out for your highest good, even when it doesn't look like it. When you align yourself with these truths, when you make them your dominant thoughts and beliefs, your entire energy shifts. You move from a frequency of lack to a frequency of abundance. You move from a consciousness of fear to a consciousness of love. And in that higher state of consciousness, miracles are not only possible, they're inevitable. Now, as you're preparing to receive your miracle, there are some practical things you can do to stay aligned. First, pay attention to your thoughts. Notice when you're thinking thoughts that don't serve you. Notice when you're worrying about the future or ruminating about the past. Notice when you're judging yourself or others. And when you catch yourself in these lower frequency thoughts, gently redirect yourself. Choose a better thought. Choose a thought that feels more like love, more like possibility, more like trust. Second, pay attention to your words. Your words have power. They're not just sounds or symbols. They're creative forces. When you speak, you're literally bringing things into being. So speak words of life and possibility and abundance. Speak words that affirm the miracle you're receiving. Don't speak your problems into existence over and over again. Don't rehearse your limitations. Don't declare what you can't do or can't have. Speak as if your miracle has already happened. Speak with certainty and confidence about the good that's coming into your life. Third, pay attention to your feelings. Your feelings are your guidance system. They're telling you whether you're aligned with your higher self or your ego. When you feel good, peaceful, joyful, hopeful, excited, you're aligned. You're on the right frequency to receive miracles. When you feel bad, anxious, frustrated, angry, hopeless, you're out of alignment. You're blocking the flow. Now, this doesn't mean you should suppress negative feelings or pretend they don't exist. It means you should feel them, acknowledge them, and then choose to shift them. You can't heal what you don't feel, but you also don't have to live in those feelings. You can feel the fear and then choose faith. You can feel the doubt and then choose trust. You can feel the sadness and then choose hope. You always have a choice about where you place your attention and what you do with your emotions. Fourth, take inspired action. Receiving a miracle doesn't mean sitting around doing nothing, waiting for something to drop out of the sky. It means being open and attentive to the guidance you receive and then acting on it. Inspired action is action that comes from alignment, not from fear or desperation. It's action that feels right, that flows easily, that energizes you rather than draining you. You'll know when you're taking inspired action because it won't feel like struggle. It will feel like cooperation with the universe. It will feel like you're being led, supported, carried along by a force greater than yourself. And often, the action itself might seem small or insignificant, but it will lead to something much bigger. That's how miracles often work. They start with a small nudge, a little intuition, a simple action, and then they unfold into something magnificent. Fifth, practice patience. I know you want your miracle now. I know you're ready for things to change. But the universe operates on its own timeline, not yours. Everything has a gestation period. An apple, a seed doesn't become an apple tree overnight. A baby doesn't grow from conception to birth in a week. And your miracle is growing, developing, making its way to you. Trust the timing. Trust that when it arrives, it will be exactly the right time. Impatience is a form of resistance. It's you saying to the universe, I don't trust your timing. I don't trust the process. I need it now, or it doesn't count. But when you practice patience, when you trust the unfolding, you relax. And in that relaxed state, you're actually more open to receive. You stop blocking the flow with your anxiety and urgency. Sixth, surround yourself with people who believe in miracles. The people you spend time with have a huge influence on your consciousness. If you're surrounded by cynics and skeptics and people who only see limitations, their energy will pull you down. But if you surround yourself with people who believe in possibilities, who see the good in life, who expect miracles, their energy will lift. you up. You don't have to cut people out of your life, but you do need to be conscious about whose energy you're allowing to influence you. Seek out teachers, authors, speakers who inspire you. Find communities of like-minded people who are on a similar path. Protect your consciousness the way you would protect a precious garden. Don't let just anything grow there. Be selective about what you allow in. Seventh, and this is perhaps the most important, live as if your miracle has already happened. Don't wait until you receive it to be happy. Don't postpone your joy until your circumstances change. Be happy now. Be grateful now. Be at peace now. Because the truth is, if you can't be happy and grateful and peaceful before the miracle arrives, you won't be happy and grateful and peaceful after it arrives either. You'll just find something else to worry about or want. The state of consciousness you cultivate now is the state of consciousness you'll have in the future. So cultivate joy now. Cultivate peace now. Cultivate abundance consciousness now, even if your bank account doesn't reflect it yet. Cultivate health consciousness now, even if your body is still healing. Cultivate love consciousness now, even if you're still waiting for the right relationship. Because it's your consciousness that creates your reality, not the other way around. When you live this way, when you embody the energy of already having received your miracle, something magical happens. You stop chasing it. You stop needing it. And in that state of non-neediness, you become a perfect match for it. It can find you easily because you're vibrating at the same frequency it is. This is the paradox of manifestation. The less attached you are to the outcome, the more quickly it comes. The more you need something, the more you push it away. But when you want something while simultaneously being okay if it doesn't come exactly as you planned, you're in the perfect receptive state. You're saying to the universe, I'm open to this wonderful thing, and I'm also trusting that whatever comes is for my highest good. Now, I want to address something that might be on your mind. You might be wondering, what if my miracle doesn't come? What if I do all these things and nothing changes? What if I open myself up to disappointment? And I want to tell you something very clearly. If you do these things, if you truly align yourself with the principles I've shared, something will absolutely change. It might not change in the exact way you expect. It might not come in the exact form you imagine, but you will experience a shift. You will receive something good. You will experience growth and expansion. Because here's the secret that many people miss. The real miracle isn't always the external thing you're hoping for. The real miracle is who you become in the process of preparing to receive it. The real miracle is the transformation that happens in your consciousness. The real miracle is the peace you find, the faith you develop, the love you experience, the trust you cultivate. These internal shifts are actually more valuable than any external miracle could ever be. And once you have these internal shifts, once you've raised your consciousness to a higher level, the external miracles become almost inevitable. They're just the natural reflection of your internal state. They're the universe saying, yes, you're ready now, you're a match now, here's what you've been asking for. So don't focus on the miracle itself. Focus on becoming the person who is ready to receive it. Focus on aligning yourself with love instead of fear. Focus on trusting instead of doubting. Focus on appreciating instead of complaining. Focus on giving instead of just taking. Focus on serving instead of just being served. Because when you become this kind of person, miracles don't just come to you occasionally. They become your normal, everyday experience. You know, we live in a universe that is infinitely abundant. There's more than enough for everyone. There is enough health, enough wealth, enough love, enough opportunity, enough everything. The only lack is in our consciousness, in our limited thinking, in our belief that we have to compete and struggle and fight for our share. But the truth is, there are no limited resources in the spiritual realm. And everything in the physical realm ultimately comes from the spiritual realm. So when you tap into that spiritual source, when you align yourself with infinite supply, you have access to everything you could ever need or want. Not through taking from others, but through opening yourself to receive from the unlimited source of all good. This is what it means to live a miracle-ready life. It means living from a consciousness of abundance. It means knowing that you're supported. It means trusting that what you need will come. It means believing that the universe is friendly, not hostile. It means seeing yourself as a beloved child of the divine, not as a struggling orphan trying to make it on your own. And when you live this way, when you truly embody this consciousness, your whole life becomes a miracle. Every day becomes an adventure. Every challenge becomes an opportunity. Every person you meet becomes a teacher or a blessing. Every experience becomes meaningful. You stop feeling like a victim of circumstances and you start feeling like a co-creator with the universe. This is your birthright. This is what you were born to experience. Not struggle and suffering and limitation, but joy and peace and abundance. Not fear and doubt and worry, but faith and trust and confidence. Not lack and scarcity and competition, but plenty and generosity and cooperation. So right now, in this moment, make a decision. Decide that you're ready to receive your miracle. Decide that you're done with the old way of living, the old way of thinking, the old way of being. Decide that you're going to open yourself up to something new, something better, something miraculous. And as you make this decision, feel it in your body. Feel the shift happening. Feel yourself letting go of resistance. Feel yourself opening up. Feel yourself becoming receptive. Feel yourself aligning with the infinite power of the universe. Feel yourself becoming a magnet for miracles. Your miracle is coming. It's already in motion. It's already making its way to you. The universe has heard your desire. It has felt your longing. It has seen your struggles. And it's responding with something wonderful, something beyond what you've been able to see or comprehend until now. So be ready, stay open, keep your consciousness high, maintain your faith, practice your gratitude, live your joy, speak your truth, take your inspired action, and most of all, trust. Trust that you're loved, trust that you're supported, trust that you're worthy, trust that your good is coming. The miracle you've been waiting for is waiting for you to be ready to receive it. And everything you need to be ready is already within you. You just have to activate it. You just have to align with it. You just have to allow it. So let go of the struggle. Release the fear. Surrender the doubt. Open your hands. Open your heart. Open your mind. And receive the miracle that's been yours all along. It's time. You're ready. And the universe is ready to deliver it to you. All you have to do is say yes. Yes to the miracle. Yes to the transformation. Yes to the life you were born to live. Yes to being exactly who you came here to be. Yes to receiving all the good that's available to you. Yes to miracles.